known as Namkemba. It was a village where the people lived in harmony with the earth, their livelihood tied to the soil and the sky, waiting for the rains to nourish the crops and fill the rivers. But for 3 long years, no rain had fallen. The elders whispered among themselves, worried lines etched into their wrinkled faces. The drought had stripped the land bare, leaving their crops to wither and the riverbeds dry. Cattle were dying, and the once vibrant fields of maize and millet lay abandoned under the harsh sun. It was as though the gods themselves had turned their backs on the village, but Namkemba had not always been so cursed. Years ago, they had a rainmaker, a powerful one, known by the name Kofi. He was a man whose name was spoken with reverence across the lands, for his ability to call down the rains was unparalleled. It was said that he had been blessed by the gods themselves, able to communicate with the spirits of the wind, water, and sky. Kofi was a quiet man, a recluse who lived on the edge of the village in a small hut near the forest. He spoke little, but when he did, his voice carried the weight of thunder, and the skies would obey his call. The people would gather at his feet, watching as he performed his sacred rites, and soon the heavens would darken, the air would cool, and the rains would pour. Namkemba had known prosperity in those days, its fields lush and its rivers full. But the rainmaker had passed on, his secrets lost with him. Kofi had died suddenly, without an apprentice or heir to carry on his work. His funeral had been a solemn affair, his body buried in the earth. But as the villagers walked back from the grave, they had noticed something strange. No clouds had gathered in the sky, and the air felt heavy and dry. The years that followed were filled with increasing droughts. The village elders had attempted every known method of prayer and sacrifice, but none worked. It seemed the spirit of Kofi had taken the rain with him. Some whispered that his spirit was angry, that he had died with unfinished business, but no one dared say it out loud. Among the villagers was a young girl named Amina, a curious and intelligent soul with a gift for dreaming. Ever since she was a child, Amina had strange dreams that seemed to show her things no one else could see. Some called her a seer, others feared her, thinking she had been touched by the spirits, but Amina paid no mind to the gossip. What mattered to her was the survival of her village, and in the still of night, she would look up at the cloudless sky, wondering if Kofi's spirit watched over them, silently withholding the rain. One night, as Amina lay restless in her bed, she dreamt of a great tree. Its roots stretched deep into the earth, and its branches reached high into the sky. At the base of the tree stood an old man dressed in flowing robes, his face hidden in the shadows. In the dream, Amina felt a strange pull towards the man, as if he were calling her, beckoning her to approach. "Who are you?" she asked. The man's voice was deep, like the rumble of distant thunder. "I am Kofi." Amina's heart raced. She had never seen him before, but the stories of the rainmaker had been etched into her memory since childhood. "Why have you come to me?" Kofi stepped forward, and his face emerged from the shadows, his eyes bright and fierce. "I have watched the village suffer. The rains will not come until what was stolen from me is returned." "What was stolen?" Amina asked, her voice trembling. "My sacred tools," Kofi replied. "They were taken from me after my death by one who did not honor our ways. Until they are found and returned to my resting place, the rains will not fall." Amina woke with a start, her heart pounding. The dream had felt too real to ignore. She knew she had to speak to the elders. They would likely dismiss her, as they had done before when she spoke of her visions, but this time she would be firm. The next morning, Amina went to the gathering of elders beneath the baobab tree in the center of the village. They were discussing the drought, their voices low and filled with despair. "Elders," Amina said, stepping forward, "I have had a dream." The elders looked at her skeptically, their eyes filled with doubt. "Amina, child, we have no time for dreams. Our crops are failing and our people are dying. We need real solutions." "But my dream was about Kofi," Amina insisted. His spirit spoke to me. He said his sacred tools were stolen after his death, and until they are returned, the rains will not come. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. They had heard of such things, spirits refusing to rest until their belongings were returned or their grievances addressed, but none had believed it could be the cause of their current suffering. The oldest of the elders, a man named Kwame, spoke up. Amina, the rainmaker, was buried with his tools. What you say cannot be true. His tomb was sealed and no one would dare disturb it. Amina shook her head. I know what I saw. His spirit is angry. He said the tools were taken by someone who did not honor him. Kwame's brow furrowed in thought. There was a man, many years ago, who claimed to be a rainmaker after Kofi's death. He left the village not long after, but I cannot remember his name. Amina felt a surge of hope. Then we must find him. He must have taken the tools. The elders murmured among themselves, unsure of what to do. Finally, Kwame spoke again. Very well. If what you say is true, then we must investigate. But if you are wrong, Amina, this village will not waste any more time on dreams. Amina nodded. She knew the stakes were high, but she was certain that her dream had been a message from the spirit world. The search began the next day. Amina and a group of villagers set out to find the man who had once claimed to be a rainmaker. They travelled for days, following rumours and whispers from nearby villages until they reached a small settlement at the edge of the forest. There they found an old man living in a humble hut, his face lined with age and regret. When Amina and the villagers confronted him, the man confessed. He had stolen Kofi's sacred tools, hoping to harness the rainmaker's power for himself. But the tools had never worked for him, and he had lived in fear of Kofi's wrath ever since. I was wrong, the old man said, tears streaming down his face. I thought I could control the rain, but I was a fool. The tools belong to Kofi, and I have kept them hidden all these years. Amina's heart raced as the man led them to a hidden chest buried beneath his hut. Inside were Kofi's sacred tools, a staff carved with ancient symbols, a drum made from the hide of a sacred animal, and a set of small weathered stones that shimmered with an otherworldly light. With the tools in hand, Amina and the villagers returned to Namkemba. The elders, now convinced of the truth, gathered the entire village for a ceremony to return the tools to Kofi's resting place. As the sun set and the villagers gathered around the rainmaker's grave, Amina stood at the forefront holding the sacred tools. The air was thick with anticipation, and a hush fell over the crowd as she knelt before the grave. Kofi, she whispered, her voice steady, your tools have been returned. We ask for your forgiveness. Bring the rain to your people once more. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a distant rumble echoed through the sky. Amina looked up, her heart soaring as dark clouds began to gather overhead. The wind picked up, cool and refreshing, and the first drops of rain began to fall. The villagers cheered, their voices filled with joy and relief as the rain poured down, drenching the dry earth. Amina stood still, her eyes closed, feeling the rain on her skin. She knew that Kofi's spirit had finally found peace. From that day forward, Namkemba thrived once more, its fields green and its rivers full. And though Kofi was gone, his spirit lived on in the rain, a reminder of the power of the ancestors and the importance of honouring those who had come before.